but 10 years ago, Alexei Navalny killed himself politically because Alexei Navalny did not support Crimea joining Russia. Can you imagine the political future of the politician in London who is against Welsh or Scotland to be part of the Great Britain? Of course,
it's perfectly imaginable. In fact, it happens, and it's something we discuss a lot because we're a democratic nation. It doesn't mean the end of a political career. And surely that was the same period where he was poisoned.
He was poisoned, I think, by whom we don't know. Yes, it's the result what we expected. We have very good sociology, and it's predicted this result about. It's appeared to be a little bit bigger than it was predicted, but at the same time, the fact that Putin will get the biggest support in his political history, it was absolutely clear because most of the people support the goals of special military operation on Ukraine, and people support Vladimir Putin because this war in Ukraine is regarded by Russians as aggression of Western countries against Russia.
So the election result, this huge majority voting for Vladimir Putin in his fifth term, it's all to do with the Ukraine war and people's support for it, not people feeling that they're losing their sons and daughters in a war that really has no need to be fought.
I think, of course, people don't satisfy how special military operation is going on, because it took already 2 years and it appears to be very bloody, and thousands of people have been killed from both sides. And from a Russian point of view, it's bad even Russian soldiers are killed, and when Ukrainian soldiers are killed, it's also very bad because they are Russians as well. It's some kind of civil war inside Russian
well,
people.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Sergei, they don't see themselves as Russians, of course. Let's go back to the election in Russia.
It's how Russians see it. I'm talking how Russians see it, not as Londoners see it. We know that London has different opinions.
Yes, no, and I'm just saying that Ukrainians don't see it like that either, which is where the war is taking place. And they don't. Sergei, but let's talk about the election, because I think there were only 3 candidates allowed to stand against Vladimir Putin, none of whom, of course, opposed the war in Ukraine. And the Russian Electoral Commission claims there was record turnout of 77.5%. But there are questions, big questions, about whether this was a free and fair election. I mean, for example, these turnout results appear to only relate to regions under particular Kremlin influence. What do you feel about Western voices in unison saying this was not a fair election?
I think that Western criticism of those Russian elections is already some kind of caricature, frankly speaking, because it's very strange. Western politicians saying that the fact that Vladimir Putin, that Russia has election and Vladimir Putin is the president with great support, it's not democracy. But the fact that in Ukraine they have no elections and with violation of constitution, it's exactly democracy. Of course, it's a caricature, and Russians don't pay any attention to reaction of the Western leaders, because for us, Western politicians is empire of ally. As to talk about another candidate, frankly speaking, they have been not opponents to Vladimir Putin, and they clearly say that they criticize government. For communists criticized for economic policy, nationalists criticized for migration policy, too liberal migration policy, but they don't challenge to Vladimir Putin, because it's even electorate of communists and nationalists agree that Vladimir Putin now the symbol of resistance against Western aggression.
But Sergei, you say that Russian people don't care or don't listen to what Western leaders are saying. But obviously, it's very difficult for them to access any information about what anybody's saying since Vladimir Putin became more draconian in terms of how he deals with journalists, dissenters, and so on. And speaking of which, and speaking of those who disagree with Vladimir Putin, he did actually, the president, address the death of Alexei Navalny in his acceptance speech, claiming he had given approval to exchange Navalny shortly before his death, effectively rejecting any responsibility for it. But still, thousands and thousands of Navalny-inspired people protested outside polling stations, and there were very big unanswered questions about why a healthy 47-year-old passed away in a Russian prison.
There are a few questions. First of all, this about protest of Navalny supporters, which we could see in Russian polling stations and so on. It's very good because it reflects that Russia is a free country. You cannot imagine even such kind of protest in Ukraine, because in Ukraine, no democracy, it's a repressive neo-fascist regime. But in Russia, you can do this a kind of anti-Putin process. It's one issue. Another issue about Alexei Navalny. I knew him personally, and he was very prospective politician 11, 12 years ago. But 10 years ago, Alexei Navalny killed himself politically because Alexei Navalny did not support Crimea joining Russia. Can you imagine the political future of the politician in London who is against Welsh or Scotland to be part of the Great Britain? Of course,
it's perfectly imaginable. In fact, it happens, and it's something we discuss a lot because we're a democratic nation. It doesn't mean the end of a political career. And surely that was the same period where he was poisoned.
He was poisoned, I think, by whom we don't know. What we know for sure, 100%, that Vladimir Putin gave order to all security, even with some violation of Russian law, to do everything to allow a medical plane from German to take Alexei Navalny to the German hospital to save life of Alexei Navalny. It is for sure, which we know. But who poisoned him, not clear. I personally think that it should be connected with Maria Pevchik, who is very much has relations with British intelligence service.
Oh, I see. So it's British intelligence. Just finally then, how do you think President Putin is feeling today? Do you think he's surprised by his brilliant result?
No, he is not surprised. I think he now has feeling of burden because hopes on Vladimir Putin appear to be even bigger than he expected. Look, for example, on these new 4 regions, which in past was regions of the Ukraine. Turnout there something about more than 80%, with more than 90% of people voting for Vladimir Putin. And of course, he has very big responsibility in face of these people. It means that after this election, there are no even theoretical opportunity for the peace deal with such results that these 4 regions of former Ukraine will be given again under the power of Ukrainian repressive or
Thank you. Thank you so much for your thoughts, Sergei Markov, supporter, of course, of Vladimir Putin, former advisor to him, indeed.